Welcome back from lunch. I'm quite glad that most of you made it. Now I have the challenge to mobilize everyone again and help you digesting the fantastic lunch that we just had. As Frank said, I'm here as a consultant, but I've not always been a consultant. About the last 30 years, I dealt with digital transformation, and about half of the time as a consultant like now, but also about half of the time as an executive in the industry. I was a CIO myself, I've been a CTO for many years, and dealt with this topic of digital transformation, how to make this successful, or as I say here, how to do it right. Now the question, do it right, or the statement, do it right this time, that implies a question, which is actually, have we done it wrong the last years, 5, 10, 15, 20 years? And my position today is yes, to a certain extent. And I will explain you what I mean. By the way, even though, Frank, I'm a consultant, I'm not here to sell you anything. Frank and Sebastian asked me to share the perspective of AlixPartners about myself on the digital transformation in the industry, in the metals mining industry. So that's what you're going to hear today. Now, let's start with a view in metals mining industry and what you see there, what we see there. So we see a massive change in the industry. You see that the requests for mineral resources, both for the production of cars as well as for the production of power plants, is changing dramatically. So the need for minerals will increase in the future significantly. We just spoke about lithium batteries and demand for lithium. Again, a topic is in high demand. We see a ramp up at the moment, but there's a lot more to come. The industry need to be ready for that. It's still also dealing with topics like electromobility, it's dealing with sustainability, ESG. All this is propelling the need for digitalization. Still, mining is consuming about 10% of the world's energy consumption, so there's too much energy consumed. The industry, the companies in the industry need to work with less energy. We see that the average copper ore grade is declining over the next 10 years. So we need to maximize the yield. We need to maximize the productivity of the company. And you see comparison with manufacturing industry. Metals mining have not had this massive improvement that we've seen in the manufacturing industry over the last 10, 20 years. And the digital maturity is still relatively low. Frank, in the beginning you said, I remember in 2010 when you started, it was less mature than other industries. I think it still is less mature, and there's a lot to wrap up. If you look along the value chain, from exploration to mining and production to trading and buying, there are issues along the entire value chain. This is dealing with lack of transparency, lack of insight, availability of data. It's dealing with inefficiencies in operations. And it's dealing with transparency on price indexing. And of course, in the mining, it's very special. It's a hazardous job. So safety is another very important aspect where digital can help a lot to reduce the risk of accidents. So there are a lot of challenges in the industry that are all calling for digital solutions. What do we see as key trends? We see edge computing, big topic. You need to process the data at the point where it's generated because you simply do not have reliable connectivity. We see a lot of transportation, next generation transportation, robotics, material handling, great inventions there. The industry is making a lot of improvement with remote operation centers. We see more examples later. Analytics, big topic. How you analyze the productivity of a mine, how you analyze the exploration and maximize the yield. Artificial intelligence, we heard about it today, same thing, will be a big topic. Is it there today? No. We are all investigating at the moment how to apply the technologies, and dynamic pricing and integration, another big one, where MetalsHub is also quite active, I think, with Metis. I think you all have seen the product presented, and some of you may use it already. So that's another area where we see a big trend going forward in where digital technologies are applied. Now, with this demand and this need, because there's an issue, we see a lot of smaller companies coming up along the entire supply chain or the entire value chain. We have new companies like Cobalt Metals in the exploration. We have along mining production, fantastic startups, or meanwhile bigger companies that help to optimize the production, the processing in mines, and the drilling and blasting with artificial intelligence. So there's a lot of technology going on at the moment. And of course, in trading and buying, we see companies like Comgo, Fendal, and of course MetalsHub being present and creating transparency, providing platforms, providing price indices, and supporting and bringing buyers and sellers together. Now, this is all good. There is a little issue with that, and you may ask the question, okay, we see a lot of digitalization. I've just said there's a need in the industry. It's not where it's supposed to be. We very often hear the question, how much digitalization will we see? Is it like at the peak at the moment? Is there more to come? And if you look at the expected global spending on digital technologies and services, it's expected to grow significantly. And we will see that trend over the next 10, 15 years of more digitalization coming. And actually, if you watch this graph, I don't think it's really a straight line. I think it's more a curve, and there's more to come. You see the valuations of the underlying technologies of companies like Apple, like NVIDIA, all the producers of the technology we apply, of Microsoft, the big software companies. The market valuations, they're going through the roof. Will that change? I don't think so. If you see this demand here, there's more to come. This business, this industry of provision of digital technology and services will further accelerate. Now we see the big players in metals and mining being very active in applying those technologies. You see here some examples with Anglo American and their integrated remote operation center in Chile, which is fantastic. If you see that there's a lot of technology applied and helps a lot to automate the operations of the mine. Rio Tinto, the use of driverless trucks always helps a lot, and they can all be monitored and observed from their central control center in Perth. Great application of digital technologies. And also in Africa, Randgold and AngloGold, they use these robotic loaders 300 meters below the surface. It's all helping to automate the process and also to reduce the exposure of the humans involved in the process to personal risk. Now, if we see that, you may ask, seems to be all good, and we are on a steady growth curve, and digital is a big trend. So there's one caveat though, and it's a big one. If you look at how well digital transformation projects performed in the last 10 to 15 years, and I've started talking about digital probably 15 years ago, before we it was called IT, then it turned into digital. There's still a little bit of a difference. But in essence, we're dealing with a topic for many, many years. And the bad news is that about 75% of the investments into digital technologies failed. The projects were not successful. Now, if you compare that with this number here, 3.4 trillion spent in digital in 2026, and 75% of that is sunk cost. That is massive. That's a huge number. And we simply cannot afford to continue working with digital in the way we've done the last 10, 15 years. What is the problem here? The problem is that, and we call it the first wave of digitalization, the problem is that we try to apply technology. It was kind of, we have the hammer and we're looking for nails. And that approach does not create the value that we are looking for. That is the reason. That's the reason why we have about 75% of failed digital transformation projects. Now, if you look at the underlying reasons for that, and these were the top 5 in the list, you see none of that is really dealing with technology. It is lack of a strategy. Companies simply don't knew exactly what to do. They started dealing with, we heard about blockchain today. Let's apply blockchain. Let's see where we can use it. Same thing is true with advanced analytics. Let's build some dashboards and see what we can do with that. IoT. How many of you have been dealing with IoT, Internet of Things, connectivity of machinery in the past? It was a huge hype, a big trend, huge expectations. There is still a need for that, and there's a reason to apply it. But this hype is gone somehow. Also, the blockchain hype is gone. In none of these cases, the technology is gone as such, but the big expectations were not really fulfilled. So what I'm saying is, you need to have a clear digitalization strategy to be clear where you generate the value. Topic number 2, poor change management. We see that all over the place. You apply technology, and then everyone is surprised that it doesn't work, or it is not used by the user, or not used in the way it was expected. I recently had a client that called me, and we had the topic before. I think someone from, if I remember well, from Benteler, said there was a S/4HANA transformation. I had that same experience recently. A client called me and said, we have done the S/4HANA implementation, SAP S/4HANA implementation. Now, it seems we need more change management. We have missed to prepare the users to adopt the technology. And I said, well, when did you start change management? I said, yeah, we are about to consider it now. And said, when do you start the project? Like 2 years ago. So things doesn't work. People have to, and users and employees have to be prepared for this change. Big challenge. Lack of top management commitment. When we talk about digitalization, this is a CEO topic. This is a topic where the top management need to be involved because of the left side here. Because it's so easy to waste a lot of money for technology. The question is, where are the business areas? Where are the big pain points in the business they're going to resolve, and why do you use that? And this missed so often. Lack of expertise, yes, of course. All these topics are often new. So sometimes there is not the expertise in the market, and it's difficult. It's innovative. But still, there are ways to increase these expertise in digital initiatives. And then number 5 is interesting. This missing courage to launch big digital transformation. Most companies do a bottom-up approach, and they start applying technologies here and there. The hammer searching for nails. And And many companies have not the courage to start thinking strategically about where to apply and how to deal with a digital transformation. So that is a big, big issue we see. And we would love to see a change here. And that's my key message for you today. Start thinking about what's the value of the digital transformation rather than applying technology. And so the title of the speech today is How to Get It Right This Time. And we see a wave 2 coming. We see more and more companies like actually dealing with it and adopting that and understanding that they have spent and wasted too much money on technology and they didn't spend enough time on strategic thinking and on preparing their organization and their teams and their employees to adopt the technology. So the call is actually to clarify the purpose first. And there's a number of reasons why digital can and how digital can generate value. It can be to increase revenue. It can be to increase customer insight, create more transparency. Or you may say, I want to reduce cost. I want to use automation to grow. So there is a need to have a clear picture about this digital value that's to be created. Now, once that is clear, the next question is what to do. And when I talk about what, I'm not talking about the technology. There is a what in a way, or there are levers to increase the top line growth. So you can found digital ventures, adds value to the company. You can digitalize the products, add software, add sensors, add the value of the product you're dealing with, increases the top line growth. Use digital channels to communicate with your business partners, rather than, we had the question before, rather than sending email with attachments. So there are more sophisticated ways to interact with your partners. You can increase the intelligence of your enterprise. And we had the discussion over lunch. There's a lot of investment in big data. Okay, it needs to be done. We heard data is the gold of the future. It's true, but it should not stop with the ability to collect data and store it, and maybe not even stop with the analytics. There's a decision-making process required. Someone in the organization need to be able to use that data for advanced decision-making, making better decisions in a shorter amount of time. And very few companies are dealing with that. How do I improve decision-making in the company? But you need to think about that if you want to create value through digitalization in your company. There's topics like lean management. I grew up in the software business. About 30 years ago, founded my first software company. And there's a lot you can learn from lean management and agile management from the software business. It is not done yet. We still have too complex organizations, too many hierarchical layers, too complex decision-making processes. And there are ways, there are mechanisms to improve the agility of the company, improve the agility of the leadership, and build in more customer-first thinking. And if you look at the value chain transformation, which is basically around how can I improve my operational efficiency? How can I automate my processes? How can I virtualize the assets? I worked for BMW at the beginning of my career. We used to drive expensive cars and crash them into the wall for crash tests. It's not done anymore today. You simulate that. Simulation, digital twins, great opportunity to virtualize your business further and take out physical assets out of the business. And then connectivity, we had the topic before. There's too much paper in the organization. There are too many breakpoints across the organization. Data should flow seamlessly across the organization. Today, I'm pretty sure you, as well as I, still use multiple applications, type in data here, do the same thing somewhere else because the applications are not connected, and you don't have a seamless flow of data. This will go away over the next 5 to 10 years. This will be completely seamless, but we are at the beginning of this journey. And companies like MetalsHub are supporting this journey. That's a great platform to share information, to share data, and have a seamless flow. Now, that's my call for action, so to speak. Please think about the opportunity to think in digital value, to think about the strategic intent of your company, of your division, of your team, of yourself first, before you consider applying technology, as fancy as it might be. Otherwise, you're losing, and you contribute to the losing of value and the waste of money. That's my aim. So I said at the beginning, I don't want to sell you anything. The only thing I want to sell you is please start rethinking when you talk about digital transformation and strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christoph. You're speaking from my heart. I mean, think about the digital strategy first, and then consider what you actually want to do. I think this is something where a lot of companies need to start. Think about what do you want to do in terms of digitalization. What is your digital strategy? I have the privilege of asking the first question, which is nice. Look, we come across a lot of times companies that they want to do something, but they're not sure how to do it. And we come across companies that think, okay, look, I want to implement my own solution. They start hiring developers, program managers, etc., developing their own solution, even for procurement. Then there are companies out there that want to apply industry agnostic solutions, spend years and years trying to customize a solution to their needs. And then there are companies, of course, out there that buy industry-specific solutions. But of course, at the same point in time, they acknowledge that others are using this as well. Can you give some advice? When does it make sense to build your own solution, to use an industry-agnostic one, and third, to use an industry-specific one?
Yes, with pleasure. And the question is, that's what we're dealing with every day. There's fantastic standard software out in the market. We had the question about SAP S/4HANA. It's a huge transformation going on worldwide at the moment, and so many companies are adopting that. Now there we have the same question. Where do we use the standard that in this case SAP provides and is considered a best practice? And where do we want to customize the solution and invest? You typically use the standard where it's not differentiating. There are so many processes, and anyone in finance, please take my apologies, but in finance there are many processes that are not necessarily differentiating factor. So it's very easy to apply standard solutions here, and maybe even industry agnostic solutions. When it comes to the core processes of your company, which is typically sales, which is production, which is engineering topics, here you want to differentiate yourself from the market, and here you want to invest in not only non-standard, but also maybe add more innovative, smaller solutions and digital technologies to that, to have a core surrounded by some satellites who add their specific value. There it really makes sense to invest. So it was a little bit of a long answer, but I think the question is so important to reduce the waste of spend that we see in the market.
Thank you. Any further questions from the audience? I'm sure there must be. Oh, is that the tiredness after lunch? Maybe ask the follow-up questions. Like, what is we see that happening quite sometimes, that people even develop their own solutions. that's something that is usually very tricky because most of the companies that start developing their own solutions do not have actually the expertise. They're not software developers. Nevertheless, there are cases where it could make sense. Have you seen, like in your work, where actually you gave the advice, look, in this case, it really makes sense, get a bunch of developers and do it yourself rather than actually waiting for somebody else to do that? Or do you think, like nowadays with interconnectivity, etc., there's always a solution out there that somebody can buy?
There's so many examples where it makes sense to develop your own solution. We typically call that speedboats, and also to indicate that you should not build your own ERP system or your own CPQ system and CRM system. These topics are covered well. Yeah. But when it comes to, for example, analytics, that's a little bit of a different thing, where you can build superior dashboards, where you can define the KPIs by which you want to steer your company. They're very tailored to the needs of your company. And you simply don't find proper analytic solutions in the market to cover that. There I would invest, and they would always call that a speedboat. I would not invest into 3, 4, 5-year programs of own development. For me, that's a risky thing. But that's kind of speedboats, generate value very short, very quickly in like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And this I would absolutely do and support.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other question? If not, please generate digital value and don't hesitate to tell me about it. If there's any special case where you say, this is great what we've done, I would be very pleased to hear about it and to learn about it.
Thank you very much, Christoph. And also for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.